Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How are we? Cheers, cheers.
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 Nice to be here.
Welcome to the 5T Vodcast. I usually start off with the same question. Who are you and how did you end up in Stockholm's techno scene? Actually, wait. This time, I think I'd like to do an introduction of you guys. Right? So, all you people out there, if you didn't know, there are books in Stockholm about the party scene, about the rave scene, about the DJs. I think I'm even in this one, right? So if you haven't read them yet, go out and get them. Today we're going to be interviewing the ladies who wrote these books. At least they wrote this one together and then you wrote the other one by yourself, correct? So these two books, we have the two authors of these books here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Okay, I am Anna Öström, and for me it started, I think, when I went to London in '88. I went to acid house party in Camden Palace. It's called the venue. I was completely hooked. I was dancing all night and had a great experience. Then 10 years later I bought my first pair of decks, starting DJing, mostly techno, but also electronica and house and that kind of music. Then 2002 I started SVAJ, which was techno cafe or a DJ cafe at Södermalm in Stockholm.
We're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, but Anna?
I got hooked on electronic dance music around the same period as Anna in the late 80s. I lived in Gothenburg and I went to Amsterdam a lot and went to acid house parties there, like at the Roxy, the It and the Odeon. And then partied on and started DJing when I was living in the States, Washington DC at first. And went out a lot and DJ'd, and I started DJing in Stockholm. We had some residencies together, did some things together, and started a club called Kvinnosaksklubben, and started a record label later on, and started to make my own music as Gavanas. My name is Anna Gavanas.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Now you said you got decks. When you say decks, what kind of decks do you mean? This was before the CD days, correct?
Yeah, it was the Technics.
Okay.
1210.
Yes. Classics. That's right. Fantastic. So you started out playing vinyl then?
Yeah, I'm still playing vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah.
You never switched over?
No. Like a vinyl Taliban.
Oh, there you go. A terrorist. We'll go into the cafe then, because that was literally one of my favorite places to hang out, and even now I still miss that. There needs to be another SVAJ somewhere, somehow. You know, if you can explain the concept and just what was happening then.
I started SVAJ 2002 with Ola Jönsson and Andreas Hellström, and it was like a daytime place for the club scene to meet, really. We had, I think, about 500 DJs who played there during the years, between 2002 and 2006.
Fantastic.
More or less regularly, some of them. Among you play there, and I had this opening weekend in June 2002, and I know you were behind the decks.
I was there 2002. Yes. Fantastic.
I think you played hip hop and R&B and
yes. Well, technically I was playing everything back then, but because there were so few people who were playing that in the lineup that day, I was like, okay, I'll be the one responsible for that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I didn't really have a problem with it. Just 2002. I'd been here maybe 1 year so far, 2 years in Sweden by that point. Yeah. So I was still, caught up in the New York state of mind. Fantastic.
SVAJ was like a meeting place. I think we had this cafe, and all the staff, all the people. We had many friends that helped us with the cafe and building the place. And before we opened it up, it was Rikspensionärernas förbund.
Oh wow.
The venue, so we had to rebuild it quite a lot. And we had a record store there. We had some arts on the wall, mostly graffiti and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fantastic.
And the people that worked with us was everyone was part of the scene, and DJs, singers, producers.
House music came to Sweden and Stockholm in the mid to late 80s. And in Stockholm, one of the pioneers was René Hedemyr, who started Bat Club in 88, and also Mats and Moa, who started Baby in 87 here in Stockholm.
Fantastic. Yeah, you guys are the perfect people to talk to about all this.
Yeah,
You've written a book about it. Fantastic.
Yeah, but in Gothenburg there was a svart club called Draupner.
Okay.
And another one called Zoo. They were started by Elisabeth Tegner was one of the people behind Draupner, and Johan Heinz was one of the people behind Zoo. They were early house pioneers.
What years are we talking about?
Well, that was 86, 85, 86.
In the middle of the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were people doing basically house parties, house music parties, in Gothenburg in the late 80s.
Yes, and Stockholm.
Okay.
But I mean, it was more mixed then. It wasn't like you could. It was very difficult at the time to do like with house music only. I mean, at that time it was Chicago house.
One of the things I wanted to do with this show is try to track down who did like the first techno, first house parties in Stockholm. Is there any information about that in these books?
Like there was one called True London Style Rave that Morten Attling started in Kungsängen. Morten Attling is still a producer and DJ, and he's one of the pioneers. He had a club, a rave called True London Style Rave in Kungsängen in 1990, and also we have Mayday with Joa Palmer and Raul Blanco in 91. So there's a lot of
they are probably earlier, yes.
Starting 1991 here in Stockholm, but in Gothenburg and Helsingborg, there were people who had been to London to the second summer of love, so that sort of acid house boom in London, summer of '88, and immediately started warehouse parties here in Sweden, in Helsingborg in '89, and also in Gothenburg in '89. There was Johan Weischer-Brown in Helsingborg who started Happy Astrid warehouse party or something like that in Helsingborg, and in Göteborg it was Sia and Bobo who started
Sia and Bobo.
Yeah, there were two girls who had also been to London and started with some English DJs started raves in Torslanda in outside of Gothenburg.
Okay.
They called No Mercy. So they are some of the earliest raves in Sweden.
Fantastic. I just want y'all to know, if your name has just been mentioned, I'm coming to find you. I'm going to try to get to the core of this whole scene. So you know, if your name's been mentioned, if you are part of the beginnings of techno in Sweden, you will be on my show eventually. Better believe it. No, but it's really good to have you guys here because I really I'm not really a nostalgic person in that way. Like I believe in change. I believe in growth. But I believe that in order to know where we're going to go, we have to know where we're coming from. We have to know what our foundation is. So it's very, very good to have you guys here because, like I said, you wrote the book on all this stuff. It's brilliant. Thank y'all for being here. Honestly.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No, because your work is what brought you here. I mean, I think it's kind of an overlooked thing. You know, like, oh yeah, DJs and people playing music forever and why bother going into it? But you guys actually did the work and the research to actually create something physical that people can go through.
Yeah, it's important, I think, to collect the stories and experiences from the people who were there when it happened.
Definitely.
And also to be able to, I mean, one thing is to interview people in retrospect, but also to find that I found for this book from Disco Feber till Rejv Hysteri, I also found this. It's called the Rave Archive, which was donated to me by Stockholm's first rave researcher.
Sweden's first.
Sweden's first, yeah. Elisabeth Tegner. She was there at the end of the 80s and up until 1996. She went to all the raves and interviewed the people who went to the raves and who arranged and played at the raves in all over Sweden, and also collected all the material, flyers and newsletters, films, cassettes, everything. And what's so unique about that is that you can actually then experience how people talked about it according to the terms that they used back in that time, and how they related to that to what their own context at the time.
Yeah.
Not today when we're looking back.
Of course, yeah.
Through sort of glasses of what's happened since then.
How things have been shaped by society and stuff like
and
that.
Also our thoughts and our perspectives and our ways of conceptualizing things.
That's brilliant.
Kind of a filter when you look back sometimes.
Yeah.
Elizabeth is still alive and kicking, right?
Yep.
Coming for you too, girl. Yeah. Brilliant, yeah, because I think it's necessary to find out all this information.
But there is so many people that have been part of the scene and part of the different scene. You named drum and bass, and you have techno, and you have house, and there's so many genres. So it's impossible to gather all of the names, all of the people, all of the stories into one book. But I think we mentioned nearly 1,500 people, clubs, and record labels and stuff in this book. And it's, but it's from the 60s to today with the focus on the DJ in this book.
Okay, yeah.
So of course there's begränsning. On how much you can
limitations,
there's limitations how much you can include. But Anna did a great work with the next book, and we're also working on a third book actually.
Fantastic. Part 3.
Part 3.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Because when was that book written?
2016 it was published.
Okay.
And that one was published last year.
Yeah,
A year ago.
All right.
And next book will be in a few years.
Exactly.
So we did make
keep it up to date.
Yes.
That's brilliant. I think that you guys have done a fantastic job. Just to go through the effort of actually doing that, I think it's brilliant and it's very necessary. Very necessary. Yeah. But you seem like you want to show us something specific that's happening in the book.
No, when you said that, I was thinking about Sydney Onayemi, that we have Anna made a great interview with for this book.
Sydney
Onayemi.
That's a Big Brother guy.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I keep hearing about him.
He actually came to our release party for this book. Okay. And he made a DJ coup. He
took over the DJ booth. Yeah. Of course.
He was takeover.
Yeah.
78 years old.
78.
78.
Wow.
And he looked fabulous.
I can imagine.
He took over. He had his maracas and whistle pipa and
still going.
Still going strong, but
78.
2 months later, maybe it was just 1 month later after the book was published, and he had his came to our party. He died.
Wow!
So,
I didn't know he was dead.
So you never know. It's time to collect people's stories.
Exactly. While they're still here.
Yeah, and also Katarina Johansson, who we read about her both in the liv and Från Feber to Rejv Hysteri. She also passed away. It's actually been 5 years now since she passed away.
Wow.
And she's one of the pioneers in the early 90s here in Stockholm. She came from Gothenburg to Stockholm and worked with Ullis actually, Ullis Rengholt. They had the club called Girls Go Go Go.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Between 92 and 93.
Yeah.
But before that, she also started some really groundbreaking clubs. She was just a very inspirational figure.
I usually end the same way. Well, I ask the question where it's like, is there something specific that you guys want to get out with this time that we have? Something like a basic idea or a thing or something you want to promote with this time that we have. This is the time.
So we're having this party in September in Gothenburg at Brewhouse. If the pandemic is over, so we can have this. So that we will include art, films from 30 years back in time.
Before most of these ravers were born.
DJs from different generations. And live artists and
collectives that are still around, sort of representing.
And crews like jungle crews and drum and bass crews, techno crews.
Yeah, and also keep on collecting stories
to the next book.
Documenting and archiving the scene. So we're going to have a big boss.
We're going to build
confession booth.
Confession
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Either can go either anonymously,
anonymously.
Anonymously, or with their names.
Brilliant.
Where they can tell their stories.
I can set that up for you guys.
Okay.
I'm a wizard with all that stuff.
Really?
Yep.
And hopefully, we're not sure yet, we will try to do a similar party in Stockholm in November.
Okay.
So just to celebrate 30 years of raves and get more stories to our next book.
Exactly.
Which will be more focused on rave than this book.
Okay.
But also what happened before in the 80s, what sort of led up to that.
Brilliant.
So we have we just keep on sort of collecting the experiences and perspectives and outlooks of the people who are at the forefront of the music and dance scene. Because it's a collective story. It's a collective story, and we would love to interview you actually.
Interview me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm down. Yeah. I've seen a lot. I've seen some things.
So let's book a time when.
Brilliant. Let's do that. Right.
For our next project.
Ladies, it's been brilliant having you guys here.
Thanks for having
Thank you all so much.
Us.
We'll have to do this again because I'm sure you have so many stories to tell. For all of y'all out there who don't have the book, sorry, this was the first one. Here. This is the one that I'm in. This is the second one.
Which ends before you started.
So this is before?
No, this one is up until 96, that one.
This one was published first.
Yeah, but this one from disco Feber to Rejv Hysteri, it's up until the first wave of rave, which ended before you came to Sweden.
Exactly. But this one
That's why you're not in it.
This one was published first. This one was published first, though.
Yeah, it was.
But this one's history, it goes further
up
back.
until 96.
Fantastic. So all of you all out there, if you don't have these books, no one's paying me to say this. I really, honestly, genuinely think that if you're a raver and you care about the scene, if you want to know what's been going on, if it's not just a party for you, these are 2 books that you definitely should have. Thank you, Anna and Anna. Sorry, Anna and Anna for being here today. I really appreciate this so much. We're definitely going to have to do this again. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. 5T Vodcast, Techno and Talk on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Ty. I guess this was the Get to Know Your Shit episode.